webinars. Today we will focus on how DecisionPoint can help you build compelling and intuitive enterprise mobile applications. I would like to introduce our two speakers today, Brad MacKenzie, Business Development, and Mark Jones, Vice President of Professional Services. At the end of the webinar, we will have time for a short Q&A session. If you have questions, please type them in the panel on your screen. And now I'm going to turn it over to Brad to kick off the presentation.
Great. Thank you, Holly. Welcome, everyone. It's great to see an audience of current customers and partners combined with some net new names, so welcome. The purpose of this webinar is that we recognized a need for a voice in the market today to help untangle the technical from the business requirements. Our goal with these webinar series is to educate through discussion the options a business manager planning their next generation mobile strategy should be considering. As Holly mentioned, today we're going to be focusing on building easy-to-use enterprise applications. As we all know, not all applications are created equal. We've all seen many poorly thought out free consumer apps, which were no doubt an expensive experiment for some developer in their garage who had a dream. But unfortunately, it is these same applications that stoke the fire of uncertainty and doubt from an enterprise perspective. Designed for usability or consumability isn't an accident. It's crucial to the successful adoption of an often critical line of business initiative and it has significant dollars attached to it. The good news is that the risk for next generation enterprise projects continues to decrease. The tools to build successful cross-platform applications have been maturing over the last few years, and in conjunction with third-party styling libraries, cross-platform or hybrid applications are becoming visibly interchangeable with natively written applications. In fact, Gartner predicts that by 2016, over half of the enterprise apps in production will be written with a cross-platform tool. This is good news, as the net result is an application that delivers a future proof to the enterprise. And I mean that in the sense that it can be easily repurposed to accommodate changing operating system landscapes and morphing device form factors. Most importantly, though, intuitively designed applications have a higher adoption rate and lower training costs. So in short, if you build them right in such a way that people like to use them or want to use them, it's cheaper. Before we jump into it, a little bit of background on DecisionPoint. We're a Tier 1 Motorola Solutions partner with over 30 years of mobility experience. Most of this experience is in reselling, kitting, staging, and servicing hardware. But over the last few years, in response to customer demand, we've been focusing on adding software and services solutions to the message. This has come both organically, as we've always had a Windows mobile development and mobile device management domain expertise, but also through acquisition. The recent past, DecisionPoint has bought intellectual property specializing in package software for content management, field service, merchandising, delivery, and warehouse management, and all of them are available as software as a service, and will be future webinar topics, incidentally, so please stay tuned for those. Most relevant to today's topic is DecisionPoint's acquisition of a 17-year-old custom development shop who for the last 6 years has been focused on modern smartphone development for both enterprise and consumer applications. The result of this experience is the in-depth experience in compelling user interface design. And today we're going to drill into that. Best practices in consumer application design should be leveraged to build successful enterprise applications. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mark Jones to walk us through his ConsumerPrise design methodology. Mark?
Thank you, Brad.
Over to you.
Yes. Hi, my name is Mark Jones. I'm VP of Professional Services. I run the software development group here at DecisionPoint, and as Brad pointed out, we have coined the term ConsumerPrise to label our application design philosophy. What is ConsumerPrise? Well, when you've been in the mobile space as long as I have, which is back when the earth was cooling and dinosaurs roamed the earth, You've seen several mobile applications written, a lot of different functions of mobile applications, inventory management, field services, etc. But really the concentration was function over form. You saw a lot of applications with green screens and emulation, but they were very, very functional. Hey, it's nobody's fault. We developed what we could with the technologies that were available to us. But things have changed tremendously. With the advent of iOS and Android and all the consumer applications out there, a user now has, or will have very soon, the same power you've grown accustomed to on your desktop or on your mobile device. The same processing power that they're used to seeing on their desktop, the same memory available to them on their desktop is now available on their mobile device. The end users of our applications are more quote-unquote mobile educated. They've downloaded one of 400,000 apps available on the App Store, on the Apple App Store, Google Play, or the Windows Mobile Marketplace. They've downloaded apps from playing Angry Birds with their kids to talking about the latest football game on Facebook Mobile to using productivity apps such as Evernote. Why do I mention these apps such as Angry Birds, Facebook Mobile, and Evernote? Well, those apps have one thing in common: usability. The apps are built primarily for the consumer market, but they are all built with the user in mind, giving them the ability to function within the app without a steep learning curve. Our end users today currently expect more from a mobile app. Whether they're using an inventory or field services app that they use at work, they don't necessarily distinguish the usability of that app from the apps that they've downloaded from the App Store, their consumer apps. So we've come up with this term ConsumerPrise, which labels our design, delivery, and deployment methodology. This term is a term given to describe a mobile application that is built for an enterprise, providing all the capabilities necessary to empower business function, but behaves and presents itself as a consumer application. Enterprise applications are characterized with visually appealing and modern controls, gestures, and functionality prevalent in consumer applications, which all lead to usability. This is the methodology we use when designing, developing, and deploying our software solutions. So what are the benefits of this ConsumerPrise methodology? Sure, enterprise applications can be complex, offering many functions, but they don't have to be difficult to use. We start with the UX and the UI design process. It serves as a foundation for our entire methodology. Application focus is on ease of use, no matter how complex those business functions may be. Screens don't have to have 50 fields on them with 20 tabs at the bottom. I'm sure you've all seen applications like this. Data can be minimized so that it is easily accessible, but only provided when necessary. The days of using a stylus to pinpoint a 10 pixel by 20 pixel field are over. Screens need to be touch friendly, utilizing gestures such as pinch to zoom or swipe when possible, again contributing to that consumer feel. When concentrating on these usability issues, we no longer look at function over form, but we look at form with function. Obviously, this leads to less time spent in training. If you can reduce your training activities, then you can reduce the costs that are associated with those training activities, and you can reduce them or eliminate them altogether. The applications are built so functionality is obvious to users that are familiar with consumer apps. It's intuitive and it just works. There are many complex apps today available on the App Store that I'm sure you've downloaded. How many of those complex apps found on the App Store come with an instruction manual? Well, the answer to that obviously is none. Things can be done to minimize and drastically reduce the cost of training, such as screen overlays or in-app instructions on how to use the app. Gartner suggests that training cost is the most expensive piece of the pie when delivering a mobile solution. Therefore, it's important that we address this. The end goal is to have a higher adoption rate. If we provide an application that is easy to use and familiar with them because they are consumer friendly, they're easier to use. Users want to use the applications rather than feel like they are forced to do so. I wouldn't go so far as say an application is fun in an enterprise market, but we certainly want to strive to make the application a part of their work so that they want to use it to do their work, so that they can become more efficient, can do their job more quickly, and at the end of the day, get home quicker to their family. We don't want those applications to feel like they're a ball and chain or something that hinder their performance and really make their job not pleasant. Now I'm going to show you a couple of examples, because a picture is worth 1,000 words, of what we're talking about with the ConsumerPrise application. This is a work order management, work order fulfillment application. This application uses our ConsumerPrise design methodology, and as you can see, a lot of attention has been made to the usability of the application. We use symbols and colors and iconography to help the user navigate through the application. You see familiar icons that you might see with a user app, such as the mail icon, denoting that this can be sent to someone. You see colors that draw your attention to the touch points on the screen. This application simply just calls out, "Please touch me," looking at that blue, black, yellow, and red and green icons in the lower right-hand screen. Touching those icons in this particular example filters this work order list. But as doing so, the user becomes familiar with those actions and what they do. Continuing down the path of this design methodology, you see a familiar interface that is common with a lot of consumer applications, such as an iTunes card view, looking at maybe music albums or videos. In this particular case, it's another view of the work order screen that I showed to you before. This card view can be swiped left to right, and again you see the colors that indicate the different statuses of the work order. These colors obviously continue to be resident in the app and continue to give the user the ability to understand what they mean. You have status here that indicate what those colors mean. And as going through the app, they just become more and more familiar with its functionality. The wheels have already been invented for us by the consumer market. It's now time to use and apply the same principles to the enterprise industry, and that's what we've done here. The next screen you see is something that I'm sure you're familiar with, the map screen. This is an interactive map that shows the user's location in reference to where they're going. The map can be pinched and zoomed just like you would in a consumer application. But as an enterprise application, we obviously have very important information that we need to display. And you see that information on the left there. Changing font sizes, calling out items in bold allows to give a better feel and a better usability experience for the user. So far, the screens that I've shown you have been pretty limited. With enterprise applications, obviously, we're going to have some more functional screens, and we're going to have screens that have more data on them. But again, there is an approach to providing a usable experience with this much data. You see the colors, you see the different font sizes, you see the call to action in the different icons in the iconography. Obviously, you've got an email icon that you're associated with mailing, an edit icon, and a print icon. All these things contribute to the usable experience and really tie the enterprise solution into a more consumer or ConsumerPrise methodology. No enterprise application is complete with signature capture, but again, this can be done relatively easily and shown in a way that makes sense and contributes to the overall look and feel. Earlier, I mentioned that our ConsumerPrise methodology is about design and development, but it's also about distributing the applications to your end users. Users today have grown accustomed to downloading applications from an app store, and they just work. They've also grown accustomed to getting updates when new versions come up, without them having to do a bunch of steps to install that application on their device. Enter our enterprise mobility management solution. This solution allows us to mimic an app store or a distributed model so that solutions can be provided to the customer very easily with very little impact to their day-to-day operations. Applications are distributed seamlessly to them as long as they have an internet connection. And updates are applied with very little interaction from the consumer, They simply need to select OK to download that application and that updated version. We maintain version control through the enterprise mobility management solution, so that versions of software are always up to date and we always have the right version out in the field. Obviously, this eliminates archaic distribution mechanisms such as email, disks, or CAD files. And because of all this, the IT costs associated with maintaining and distributing different versions are reduced or eliminated. So this is all great, but how do we do this? Well, there's technology enablers that allow us to accomplish the ConsumerPrise model. The best enablers are cross-platform tools. Cross-platform tools allow you to reduce development costs for supporting more than one operating system. We've chosen RoMobile as our go-to-market cross-platform tool. The benefits of cross-platform tools are obviously that you can support multiple operating systems, but in addition to that, the skill sets that are associated with using these cross-platform tools are widely accepted and standardized in the development marketplace. Tools such as HTML5, JavaScript, and Ruby are tools that developers are used to using today in web applications. They can use those same tools and those same skill sets when developing these cross-platform tools. This obviously reduces the need for highly skilled or hard-to-find resources because the resources with these skill sets are more widely available. In addition, when using cross-platform tools, your maintenance costs are reduced. Having a unified source reduces the need to maintain separate projects for multiple operating systems. Today in the market, there are several different operating systems. We know of iOS, Android, and Windows Mobile. There's different screen sizes from 5-inch to 7-inch to 9-inch to 11-inch tablets. All of these things need to be taken into consideration when developing a new solution. And the best way to do that is to use a cross-platform tool such as RoMobile. We develop our solutions using an MVC architecture. An MVC architecture is very important when using a cross-platform tool because this allows you to separate your models or your database entities from your views, which is what the user interacts with, from the controllers or the code and algorithms and glue that tie it all together. This enforces good development practice and it leads to better sustainable and manageable applications. When porting to other devices or other screen sizes, if you use an MVC architecture, most of the code seamlessly ports over to those different devices. And if you follow an MVC architecture, the only things that you need to adjust are the views. And you can do that very easily because you've utilized the MVC architecture. This wraps up my technical discussion of ConsumerPrise. I will now turn it back over to Brad so he may continue the presentation. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thanks very much, Mark. So we've established that we need to rethink how the applications of tomorrow are written, plus employ the creative design services of graphic artists or usability experts. It all sounds pretty complicated and resource intensive, but it doesn't have to be. And rethinking about how applications actually work is a good thing. There's been all kinds of technology and new paradigms that ultimately will improve business process. So to that end, DecisionPoint has started to get requests for toe-in-the-water type engagements from our current Windows mobile customers, but also our net new customers who are looking at doing a project for the first time. They're looking for our help where we can help establish an application design roadmap and along with working documents and a tangible estimate for internal planning purposes, something that you can take to the executive committee and say, here's the plan. So this architecture and design workshop is designed to deliver just that. So we sit down, we review your architecture of your current app with an eye to leveraging the modern design paradigms, provide consultation on build options, so native versus cross-platform, and in this process, talk about things like push technology, camera, RFID, mapping, as well as real-time barcode scanning and near-field communications as they might apply to your particular situation. The workshop is 4 days where we send an experienced architect out to your offices to work alongside you and your stakeholders, the line of business, and of course IT, who ultimately is going to need to own the operations of a new mobile project. And at the end of the engagement, we deliver a written solutions brief with an action item list of recommendations and a migration plan to help fuel the ongoing discussions internally. Lots of customers get started with this 4-day process and then start to add in-depth and systems analysis and training requests to it. So it's all available and it's all iterative. The takeaway here is custom for your particular situation. Last slide here, a few current DecisionPoint customers who are enjoying the benefits of our experience in both hardware, software, and application and device management. If nothing else, we hope that you take away that DecisionPoint is here to help you approach next generation application development in a walk before you run way, incrementally, with an eye towards building the most user-friendly and technological future-proof strategy. And with that, I will turn it back to Holly for any questions that have been submitted. Holly?
Thank you, Brad and Mark. Well, we have now reached the Q&A portion of our webinar, and the first question that we have received is, can you explain what a third-party styling library means?
Sure.
Sounds like a Mark question. Yep.
Yeah, this is Mark. A third-party styling library is something that is used in conjunction with a cross-platform tool such as Road Mobile to provide the end-user experience. There are several available. jQuery Mobile is one, Cincha Touch is another, and Twitter Bootstrap is one that we like to use quite often. But really, you can choose the one that you feel most comfortable in using, and these are synonymous with the same UI frameworks that you would use in a web application, for example, and they all three have their benefits. But we have settled on Bootstrap. We've used jQuery Mobile, and we have some experience with Cincha Touch as well.
Thank you, Mark. The next question we have is, we have an existing hardware partner. Can we still leverage DecisionPoint's software development services?
Yeah, so this is Brad. Thanks, Holly. Great question. Absolutely. The software group here at DecisionPoint would be happy to work with any existing partners that you may have and share our expertise. So please reach out.
Awesome. Thank you, Brad. Next question is, what is the typical creative design process for ConsumerPrise? We have an existing Windows mobile app that we're considering rewriting.
That's a really good question. This is Mark Jones. We start our ConsumerPrise methodology with a creative and design experience and engagement. The engagement that Brad mentioned to you earlier is really tipped off by a session where we come in and we understand the functionality of the 2B application and get the business requirements of the application. But then we turn it over to our creative team. We employ and maintain a creative design team here in-house at DecisionPoint, and they are responsible for taking those business functions and business requirements and producing what we call an archetype, which is actual screens, not mock-ups, not wireframes, but actual screens or constructs that translate to what the finished application will look like. The screens that I showed to you previously in this presentation were actual screens taken from an archetype that are actually in place in a real application today.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Well, thank you all for your questions, and this concludes our webinar today. We appreciate your time, and we hope that you will join us for more educational mobility webinars in the future. If you would like more information about enterprise mobile applications or this webinar, please contact Brad MacKenzie at bmackenzie@decisionpt.com. Again, we thank you for your time and hope you have a great rest of the day.